Hi everyone, Sparkla is the newest limited Vanguard and one of the most anticipated Terra characters in a long time. A lot of players expected her to replace Gerie in Mark team, while others were hoping that she would finally unlock S.Coronis' full potentials as a sub-DPS. So in this guide, we will answer both questions and also cover what Sparkla brings to the table, how to play her strongest build, the best teams, builds, emblems, diseases, and her talent values. But before all of that, there is one question we need to answer first. Can Sparkla replace Gerie in Mark team? Well, the answer is no. Even though Sparkla is a limited character and Gerie is a standard character, Sparkla is still actually weaker as a Mark DPS. The reason is pretty simple. If you compare their kits, both characters have almost identical numbers, similar base damage, similar attack bonus, and similar Terra damage. The only real difference comes from how many times each of them can trigger marks. Gerie can consistently trigger 8 marks in one single skill, while Sparkla only triggers 6 to 7 times, which translates to 12 to 25% damage loss already, and that alone puts Sparkla behind before we even consider anything else. So if your goal is to build the strongest Mark team possible, Gerie is still the best choice. The only reason to play Sparkla in Mark team isn't because of her damage, it's convenience. Her skill is easier to land, works better against mobile targets, and doesn't have positioning issue that Gerie has. And if that is exactly what you are looking for, then Sparkla still works perfectly fine as a Mark DPS. I will put the preset in the description, since it's basically the same build as Gerie Mark team. Now with that out of the way, let's talk about Sparkla's value in non-Mark team. If Sparkla isn't replacing Gerie, then what makes her worth pulling? Sparkla is the first Terra Vanguard fully designed around skill damage. And since S.Coronis release, we've been waiting for a Vanguard that could properly take advantage of her kit. Instead of forcing S.Coronis into awkward setups, Sparkla fits really well alongside her and allows both characters to function as a proper DPS units. And while this team won't beat Gerie Mark team for most players, it's one of the few teams that can actually compete with it. In fact, against larger targets, the gap becomes surprisingly small and can even swing the other way at higher investment. So for the rest of this guide, we'll be focusing on Rapid Fire, which is currently Sparkla's strongest build. So, how does Sparkla actually deal damage with this build? The core of her kit is Rapid Fire mode. When activated, Sparkla enters Special mode, where her tactical wheelchair continuously fires at enemies for 10 seconds. This build enhances that mode by adding additional bullets and unique debuff called Crystallize. After enough hits, enemy becomes crystallized, causing Sparkla's bullet to trigger additional damage. So in simple terms, this build is about triggering Crystallize through repeated hits, and then taking advantage of extra damage while the debuff is active. Now that we know how this build works, let's talk about how to play it. The first step is to activate Rapid Fire mode by holding her skill for a short moment. You also notice that her skill buttons changes into the new icon, Burst Shot. So whenever Burst Shot becomes available, simply place it and pew the target. And you should be able to use it 3 times before Rapid Fire mode ends. As for her ultimate, use it after the end of the Rapid Fire mode, ideally after the rocket attack, so Sparkla can finish her entire skill sequence first. And if possible, consider turning on ultimate animation, since it helps fit her long ultimate into one skill downtime before her next cycle. And that's how you play Sparkla. Now that we know how to play Sparkla, let's talk about her teammates. The best team is Sparkla, S.Coronis, and Nasuna. Since both Sparkla and S.Coronis mainly deal skill damage, they synergize well with each other and make full use of the buffs provided by Nasuna and their signature discs. This allows S.Coronis to finally function as a proper sub DPS, while contributing a significant portion of team damage alongside Sparkla. If you don't have S.Coronis, you can replace her with either TIlia or Rich. Between the two, TIlia generally performs better thanks to her stronger buffs, although getting the most out of her buffs can be a little trickier for ranged characters, and I will explain why later in the build section. So if you prefer a simple option, Rich is still a solid choice, and performs well enough for most contents. One thing worth mentioning before we get into the builds is that this team scales really well with investment. For most players, Gerie Mark team is still stronger. However, Sparkla team scales exceptionally well with investment because both Sparkla and S.Coronis continue to gain meaningful damage from talents and their signatures. And with every bosses having large hitboxes, Sparkla's team can take even better advantage of its multi-hit attacks. So while Gerie Mark team remains the benchmark for most players, we might start seeing high investment Sparkla team perform better in the upcoming FE bosses. With that in mind, let's take a look at the build, starting with Sparkla's base team. You can simply follow the build on the screen based on the priority shown here. However, there are a few things worth mentioning. First, Prism Convergence. This potential only works when you are far away from the target. Normally that's not a problem, but in the current boss blitz, Sparkla can end up targeting nearby mobs instead of the boss. Because of that, you have to stay close to the boss, making Prism Convergence not functional in this situation. For S.Coronis, only take Reciprocity if you are using her signature disc to trigger and maintain debuff from the disc. Otherwise, there is no need to pick it. As for Nasuna, you want Jubilant Spin, not because of the skill damage bonus, but because it increases her field time. The longer Nasuna stays on the field, the better the value of Lucky Drop, since that effect only works while she is on the field. Now if you don't have S.Coronis, TIlia is generally a better replacement. But one thing to keep in mind is that some of her buffs can be harder to maintain on ranged characters. Specifically, Perfect Spiral. It only applies its skill damage taken debuff when TIlia's shield makes contact with the main character. And when that happens, it creates a small AoE around Sparkla that applies a debuff to nearby enemies. So you need to stay close to the boss when using TIlia's skill. But if you don't want to deal with this positioning requirement, Rich is a solid alternative. Unlike TIlia, you don't have to move in and out to maintain your buff, making Sparkla much more comfortable to play. Just drop her skill and let it gradually reduce target defense. Now let's go over the skill priorities. For Sparkla, most of her damage comes from her main skill, so max it first. As for her auto attack and ultimate, you can leave them at level 7. For S.Coronis, focus on her support skill, since she now functions as a sub DPS. That means she also contributes a significant portion of team damage, especially against larger targets. The rest of her skills can stay at level 1. For Nasuna, prioritize her support skill, followed by her ultimate, since their attack buffs scale with skill level. For TIlia, only level her support skill. And for Rich, you can leave everything at level 1, since none of her skills support the team. Let's move on to emblem recommendations. Sparkla is similar to Xia. She already gets plenty of generic stats from her own kit and teammates. Because of that, additional attack, skill damage, and auto stat from emblems don't increase her damage by that much. So besides getting main skill plus 3, you will get more value from Rainbow Pen, crit rate, and then potential upgrades. As for S.Coronis, she also follows a similar pattern, as she also gets a lot of generic stats from base kit and the team. That's why you want to start with support skill plus 3, and then focus on Rainbow Pen and crit rate afterward. As for level 90, Symptom Sight is the best choice here. Not only does it improve S.Coronis' personal damage, It also increases the team overall damage, making it the most valuable option here. As for Nasuna, you want as much charge efficiency as possible. This allows her to cast more ultimate and trigger total damage taken debuff from rocket card more frequently. As for level 90, Lucky Drop is the best option for the team, followed by rocket card. And if you are using TIlia and Lich versions, just follow the list on the screen. Now let's take a look at these recommendations. Both Sparkla and S.Coronis signature discs are excellent options, and are roughly 10% stronger than the best free-to-play alternatives. The main reason is that both discs provide skill damage taken debuff, which is a rare multiplier and works exceptionally well with this team. So if you can afford it, I would definitely recommend picking them up whenever they are available. Without them, your best free-to-play options are Cataclysm, Nasuna's signature, and Gerie's signature. As for support discs, both event discs are the best options here, followed by FE disc and Freezia's signature. That said, I wouldn't recommend getting FE disc specifically for this team, since it isn't worth the resources compared to other available alternatives. Finally, let's talk about Sparkla's talents. The good news is that her talent scaling is very straightforward. Each talent provides a fairly consistent damage increase, so there aren't any major breakpoints that you need to aim for. That means you can safely stop whenever you want, or continue pulling all the way to T5 if you are planning to invest heavily into the character. The only real limitation here is your wallet. So to wrap things up, Sparkla isn't the character that replaces Gerie in Mark team. Instead, she enables a completely different Terra playstyle built around skill damage, and finally gives S.Coronis a teammate that works well with her kit. For most players, Gerie Mark team will be stronger, but Sparkla's team is one of the few alternatives that can genuinely compete with it, especially at high investment levels. And if you are interested in that playstyle, Rapid Fire build is definitely the build I would recommend. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. If you found this guide helpful, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more content. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.
あら、見とれちゃいましたか？